Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of From the Chair, where inclusion matters. Tonight we welcome Nick with Below Zero Wrestling. And now I reluctantly give the power of the show to our host, Nathan.
Welcome, everybody, and thank you, Nick, for being on tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So can you tell us a little bit about how Below Zero was formed? Because I think that's a cool story.
Yeah, so Below Zero Wrestling, we're based out of Fargo, North Dakota. We're actually coming up on our 2-year anniversary here this month of running events. And about 2.5, 3 years ago, me and my business partner essentially were on the same wrestling page on Facebook, and he just put a post out there that he wants to start a wrestling promotion in Fargo. And I've always had that in the back of my head. There's a time about 5 years ago I really thought about it. And so we got to talking a little bit and became friends. And, you know, it went from like joking around that we should have a wrestling promotion to one day we're like, we should really do this. Let's start something here. And here we are now 2 years later and feeling on top of the world doing it. So.
Very cool.
Could you tell us a little more about how you decided to go in together with your partner?
Sure. So my business partner's name is Zach. We both grew up, you know, loving wrestling for different aspects of it. I was the diehard wrestling fan growing up, all, you know, evolving as I got older. He's a big guy of the cinematics, the stories, the production of it. And so as we got to talking more, it was, you know, what do we want to do with a promotion? What do we expect out of ourselves? And how do we want to make it like what, you know, what's kind of our goal? What do we want to do here? And so we just had a lot of meetings, talking on the phone, kind of saying, you know, I want this, you want this. And then we started talking about talent, and it just really meshed well together. We're so different that we get along that well. We both have very defined roles at what we do here. We both work very well together and do everything, but it's worked so well. And it was times of, you know, every day, just, hey, how's it going? How's it going? What are we thinking today? That kind of stuff. So it's been fun.
Yeah. Well, speaking of some of your talent, man, I mean, we interviewed a couple of, well, at least one of the people that you have on your roster, Gino. I told you so.
Gino,
great
I love
guy.
Gino. Yes, yep, yeah. He'll be up here in a couple of weeks. We've been fortunate to have Gino on a few shows. He's become a name here in BZW, and he's got a pretty important match coming up. Him versus our champion, Jack Ledger, in 2 weeks.
In fact, I think he talked about that one on his interview, didn't he?
Yes.
Yes, I think he did.
And I saw the match with him and Kalisto that he did for you guys, or Samurai Dells, and that was incredible.
Yeah, those two put on a great match. They're actually wrestling again this weekend, I believe, down in Texas.
In Texas, yes.
Yeah, but we kind of ignited the feud. So those guys worked well together. They worked very well in the ring. Two, you know, veterans that know what's going on, and that was as a promoter, that was a great match. But then also as a fan, that was such a fun match to watch as well.
So when you get Eric Redbeard, does he come with the goat mask?
He didn't have it that time. No. He definitely is, you know, still has a lot of the same gear, has that persona. I mean, he was more like a biker in a sense, you know, in when he was with us. But what another great talent, and a super nice guy. Like, getting to know him was really cool too.
Well, and that's what kind of blew my mind watching the videos today. Was he was playing a face in your guys' promotion? I had never seen him really go that far into playing a face before. It was kind of funny but interesting at the same time because I was like, I don't know how to feel about this, you know?
Yeah, the crowd just ate him up. Like, there's still a guy, Mac, who's wrestling. I walk up to him every once in a while and I just ask him how his chest is doing, because when Redbeard gave him that double chop, like it was red for like a month afterwards. I mean, there's no pulling those.
No. So you mentioned it a little bit, but can you tell us a little bit about your talent and who your champions are?
Yeah, definitely. So, being based out of North Dakota, we have a lot of talent from the Midwest, South Dakota, Nebraska, Minnesota, North Dakota, Wisconsin, and I mean, I will vouch that we have the best talent there is in the United States at our disposal. And so, our main champion, Jack Ledger, he's the BZW champion. He's had our title now for about a year and a half. And he trained down with Cody at the Nightmare Factory. So, I mean, just a phenomenal talent. And then we just introduced 2 other titles here at our last show at Winter Slam, and that was our Sub-Zero Championship. Kyle Pro, he's a phenomenal athlete. If anyone has him on their event, they are more than lucky to have him. One of my favorite matches was him versus Matt Cross a couple years ago for us.
Wow.
So yeah, he's our Sub-Zero. And then I'm a big tag team guy, and one of my favorite tag teams just happens to be my tag team champions as well, NDS, which is Riley Jackson and Levy Cruz. And those guys are, they're high flying, they're running around the ring, they're athletic as can be. So we have a really good stable of champions right now.
I'm glad you brought them up because they were like one of the last videos I watched when I was doing my research, and they remind me of like the Rockers, you know what I mean, from like the old WWF days. Just their fluidity and the way they move in the ring from like one move to the next.
Yeah, they don't stop. They're constantly going, full of energy, and sometimes the way that they mix the moves together and go from one to the next, it's just it looks good. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, I can honestly say I had to rewind a couple of times just to make sure I saw what I what I saw, because you're right, they mix it so well. You're like, I don't know if I saw that right.
Now you mentioned some of your stars. Who are some of your up and coming stars?
Man, I could go on for a long time. All those people that we announced that I just talked to, there's every single show that we have from top to bottom, and I don't just say this because I have to, but I say it because I mean it. Top to bottom, we have, I think, some of the best roster in the area. I mean, we get to work with some, I mentioned like a Kyle Pro and stuff like that, but DeLorean Diggs, Brandon Nitro, Sierra, who people have started seeing her on like NWA and Impact Wrestling, and she's been on AEW, Joey Avalon, The Summit, Royal Flavor, Sly's guys. The list goes on and on. I'm missing like three quarters of my roster right now. But when I talk about these guys, like there's so many talent that we have that could easily be wrestling on the bigger scene, and I truly believe that.
So one of the matches that I really enjoyed today was, and I'm gonna butcher one of these guys' names, but it was Bobby Brennan and Joseph. I can't remember his last name, but they were in an I Quit match.
Yeah, Joseph Anderson.
Yeah, that was a phenomenal match. I mean, I was enthralled with that thing from the beginning to the end. So,
yeah, Bobby versus Joseph. That was we had that last year in September. And that was a really good match, hard hitting. I mean, vicious. Anytime you have an I Quit match, is going to be that way. And that match kind of changed the landscape of BZW because, not long after that, Bobby turned on his brother, Jack Ledger, and that's kind of got us to where we are here now, or we were this last big event of ours. So Bobby's great. Joseph, shouldn't call him Joey. He hates being called Joey. Joseph is a great talent too.
That's funny because that's what the referee kept calling him when he asked him if he wanted to quit every time he had the microphone. So,
oh yeah, when the fans start chanting Joey towards him, he knows exactly what to do, and it's perfect.
and one more thing about that match: it's the first I Quit match where I ever saw somebody try to suffocate somebody with a plastic sack.
They went all out. They went all out. They literally were going to make it where he had no choice but to quit because he wasn't going to be breathing.
I think you're up, Pat.
No, you got the next one.
Can you tell us about the biggest rivalries in your company?
Yeah, so right now our biggest rivalry that we just had was brother versus brother. Jack Ledger versus Bobby Brennan. Those are brothers that have been, friends and family for so long, and they just got done having a huge match at Winter Slam, but that went on for a long time. DeLorean Diggs, who's one of our staples, he's been around since the very beginning. He's been feuding with a group called the Slice Guys, managed by Sylvester J. Fox, manager extraordinary, he calls himself. And he's wrestled every single one of their guys. He's taken care of any one of their guys. And so that was a really fun feud. But right now, the Crucible, who is Jameson McGregor and Brixton Nash, who are they're massive, big men that just like to beat the crap out of you. The Crucible and NDS, it looks like that's heating up to be a really good rivalry right now, for the tag team championship.
Very nice. So the manager you're talking about, is that the guy with the red jacket, the cane, and
yeah, so he carries a golf club with him.
Yep.
He's got
Okay.
he's got the red jacket. Sometimes it's blue, sometimes, but yeah, always very colorful. He's an absolute thorn in my side sometimes.
I can see that. I mean, I wasn't even paying attention to him, and you could hear him through the screen, even though it was focused in the ring. That guy's voice carries.
He never stops talking. It's constant.
What is
like our host?
Ouch.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Pat.
Our host doesn't know much about this next question. What is your best gimmick match you have done to date?
Ooh. Let's see. I got to think it's probably the I Quit match that we had. But we also had a ladder match to crown our first champion. So that I probably have to go that one. That ladder match was really good. It was Jack Ledger versus Brandon Nitro versus Nick Nelson. First ladder match we ever had to crown our first champion. And those guys they went out there and laid everything on the line. So I got to go that. I got to go ladder match.
So before we ask our next question, we'd like to thank our first sponsor, which is the CARE program, which stands for Community Action Reaching Everybody. And if you want to get a hold of the lady that's in charge, you can get a hold of Becky Bernhardt on Facebook. How does your company choose the best teams and wrestlers for your championships?
It's not ever easy to, decide who's going to wrestle who for what title and who's going to be the champions and all that. It's a combination of hard work. It's a combination of who those talents are. The first, let's go back to that ladder match. I mean, those people, those guys that were in the ladder match were no brainers. They're some of the best athletes that we have. They're some of the best wrestlers. The fans either love them or hate them. And that should have actually been a 4-way. We should have had Sierra should have been in there as well. But being that it's North Dakota, the snow decided to keep her away. Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it. We don't just draw a name out of a hat. There's a lot that goes into picking who's going to be the championship or who's going to be in those matches to represent BZW.
What advice would you give a person wanting to become a professional wrestler?
Go for it. Like, just go for it and put everything into it. So, by not being a wrestler myself, but being a promoter, I look at it that it's kind of the same thing. Like, if that's what you really want to do, like, go all in. Take the time to learn the business, to learn, how to properly do stuff in the ring, how to act outside the ring, how to act in the locker room, how to do this and that, and really do your research and do your education. Before I ran our first show, I had 6 to 8 months of talking to some people, researching online, watching how things are done. So, I mean, you really have to be a student of what you want to do, whether that's a manager, a referee, a promoter, a wrestler. And so if you're going to do it, I say go for it, but make sure that you're all in. You got to be all in on it.
So we asked this question to some of the referees and the wrestlers, but what's the craziest thing you've ever seen at a wrestling show as a promoter?
Let's see. We had a couple months ago, we had a show. Jack, our champion, did a dive over the top rope that took the guy out into the barricade. I mean, just one of those big over the top rope moves, and the crowd just loved it. So, I mean, that was a very memorable one. We've had a few other moves like that, but that one definitely sticks out in my mind.
Was that the one where the whole barricade twisted to the side? Because I saw a video where they were outside, and he jumped, and the whole barricade kind of fell in on it. So
that one could have been. He's known to dive out the ring a few times. And the other one would have been NDS, the tag team, them when they were wrestling Ace Austin and Madman Fulton, which is one of the best tag team I've ever seen. He dove out of the ring and he landed in a lady's lap. He was just sitting right in her lap.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Gives new meaning to the word paying for the show because she got more than what she bargained for.
Yeah. Front row experience.
Exactly.
We've asked this question to a lot of people. My favorite snack is cookies. What is your favorite cookie or snack, and what would it be and why?
Ooh. Oh, man. Okay, so if we're going cookies, it's really hard to not just have a good chocolate chip cookie with milk. Like, that will get me any day of the week. I really like Oreos, but if I had to go my favorite snack in general, kind of depends on the day, on how I'm feeling, but I really like licorice. I've been on a licorice kick lately. Not black licorice, but anything but black licorice I've really been liking.
That's a good answer. I don't think we've had anybody say licorice before, so you're a first.
That's our first.
A cookie and chocolate chip cookie and milk sounds really good right about now, though.
Yes, it does.
So, who were some of your wrestling heroes growing up?
It varied with my age. So when I was younger, it was all the larger than life guys. It was Hulk Hogan, the Ultimate Warrior, Macho Man. I mean, the typical ones of a kid that's 5, 6, 7 years old. As I got a little bit older and kind of understood wrestling, Razor Ramon, Scott Hall was someone that I fell in love with. 1, 2, 3 Kid, Sean Waltman, X-Pac. I'm a really big tag team guy, so because of Scott Hall, Kevin Nash became another one with the Outsiders. Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty with the Rockers. I mean, it just as I grew up, as I got older, some of them kind of stayed the same, but Scott Hall might be my favorite wrestler of all time. It varies on certain. Some days I'll tell you Hulk Hogan. Some days I'll say Scott Hall. But the typical heroes that most people have.
Which brings me to my next question. Can you name your top 5 tag teams of all time?
Oh, okay. So number 1's the Outsiders, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash. 2 would have to be the New Age Outlaws, with Road Dogg and Billy Gunn. I was a big WCW guy, so I'd probably go. My next 3, I don't know if I would put them in any specific order, but I know they'd be top 5. Harlem Heat, I love Harlem Heat. And then Edge and Christian, absolutely love Edge and Christian. And then just as a fan, a lot of people might look at me and say, why would you ever ask, about these guys? But just as a fan, the Natural Disasters, Earthquake, and Typhoon. So I got to meet Typhoon. Well, he was Tugboat at the time, but I got to meet him when I was really young in my wrestling life, when I was 8 years old or whatever. And ever since then, I loved everything he did.
That is awesome. So, since you're a huge WCW fan, what was it like working with Eric Bischoff?
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So, generally, these guys come in, they sign some autographs, they go back to the locker room, and they're done. They don't even worry about it. Bischoff came in. He sat in Gorilla with me right behind the entrance curtain for 3 hours watching this event. And after every match, he'd take the guys and talk to them for about 5 minutes and say, this is what you need to do. This is what you can do to get better. And then he goes out and says, yeah, I'll go manage that match. He goes and manages a wrestler for us. It was amazing. It was an absolutely amazing experience. I know a lot of people have said some bad things about him, but from top to bottom, working with Bischoff was a highlight of my career. Plus, he came out to the NWO music, and he gave me a 2 Sweet, and I was just like, "This is it. I'm done."
Wow.
Yeah. Speak of the devil, I have an autographed picture of him right there.
Oh, wow. I mean, just having him behind you at Gorilla had to be one of those like out of body moments where you're like, holy crap, he's sitting next to me for like
and he's sitting there talking about matches with me, like, who's this guy, and asking me questions about guys, and then he goes and talks to them and doesn't really talk to him about the wrestling, but talks to him about facial expressions and how to work a crowd and what to do in this situation with your reaction. Like, it was really cool to see him doing that with this, young talent. And I think a lot of that locker room really, really liked that.
Yeah, I remember watching the promo that he cut in the ring where he was like, without like a place like BZW, there would be no WWE, AEW, or even a WCW.
Yeah, and when he says stuff like that, not just about BZW, when he talks about independent wrestling like that, you can tell it's genuine. He means it. He really means it.
Yeah, you could feel it. Like,
the man is a genius. That is for sure.
Yes, he is. He did. He took a lot of chances, and not all of them worked out. But he took some chances that worked out very, very well.
Promoters. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Pat. No, go ahead.
Nope, go ahead.
From a promoter standpoint, do you ever struggle coming up with like storyline ideas?
Not really. My business partner Zach, he's a genius when it comes to a lot of that stuff. So if either of us are having an issue, we bounce ideas off of each other, and eventually it clicks in one of our minds, and it's usually his more than mine. But it kind of clicks on saying, yep, that's what we want to do. And so we have a lot of discussions, and so it definitely helps. Now there is always that, after a big show, like where do you go from here? That can sometimes be a little tough, but we always figure it out.
Yeah, I like asking that question because at a training school, it was never as big as like BZW or anything like that. I got to be a booker for a while.
Sure.
And it was really hard to like have like a whole month's worth of storylines, and then you get there and something changes, and you're like, okay, so we're going on the fly today.
Yep. Yeah. Sometimes you just got to figure it out, and the day of, and that's something I've always been pretty good at doing. I can think on my feet and don't let stuff like that get to me. So we've been really good at being able to handle that stuff when stuff comes up.
In your opinion, can you name your top 5 managers
Ever? Bobby the Brain Heenan, number 1. Jimmy Hart, number 2. Paul Heyman is in the top 5. Maybe he's 2. Man, after you get there's so many good ones out there. Paul Ellering, I really like Paul Ellering.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe Coach. Why am I drawing a blank on him right now from ECW? He called him the coach.
Damn it, I can see his face.
Yeah. He blows the whistle. Bill Alfonso.
Bill Alfonso. Thank you.
Bill Alfonso. Yep. I'm an EC. I love ECW, and so I really like him. And Sylvester J. Fox, if he watches this, will probably be very upset that I don't put him in my top 5. But he's like in my bottom 3 probably. So
that's funny. I was gonna say, if you don't mention him, we might hear him in the background as loud as that guy talks.
He knows where me and him stand.
Okay, since you brought up Bill Alfonso, I tell this story a lot, but I used to do a podcast with the original Pitbull, Gary Wolf.
Oh, yep.
And we interviewed Bill Alfonso, which was a great interview because he had a lot of stories and stuff. The only problem was I went deaf because he blew that whistle in my ear over the phone every other word. So after an hour, I think I was deaf.
Yeah, he blows the whistle more than he talks.
Yep. But I didn't think he would do that over the phone, but apparently I was wrong.
I don't think he ever stops. I'm sure he's just doing it right now at his house, just vacuuming at home, blowing the whistle.
Sure, his wife loves that one.
Yeah.
We've also asked this question to a lot of people. What is your favorite actor turned wrestler? Or favorite wrestler turned actor? That I had it backwards.
Favorite wrestler turned actor. I'm sure most everyone says The Rock, or there's many people that say that, but I'd have to go Batista. Mainly because of Guardian of the Galaxy. I mean, I'm a huge superhero guy. I love Marvel. So Batista is Drax. I mean, I love that character. So I'm going Dave Batista.
And he's only the second person on the podcast that has said Batista as his favorite.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, we had one other person, but his movie was the newest one he did, which was The Cabin in the Woods, or.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet.
Knock on the Cabin.
It's a very trippy movie.
Okay.
I learned not to watch that one in a nursing home when people walk into your room at random parts of the night.
I gotta
Hey.
ask: has anyone answered the Miz to that question?
Surprisingly, yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
One person.
for the Marine.
One person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, and Mr. Host, Sylvester Fox is on the phone and he wants to come on the podcast and blow the whistle at you.
All right, but I don't know if I'm going to get a word in edgewise with that guy, but we'll do it. In your opinion, what's one thing you would change about the wrestling business today?
Man, that's tough. Less internet. I mean, I think that the internet has taken away some of, that storyline, some of that those larger than life characters, and it's made it. I mean, don't get me wrong, the internet has been wonderful for wrestling. We're on it right now, but I just think that being able to stay true to character is a little bit harder when you have social media and you have all the Twitter and the podcasts and the dirt sheets and all that kind of stuff. So I think less of that would make wrestling actually a little bit better.
I just lost my notes.
Shoot from the hip.
Fire away.
So, what was your bloodiest match that your wrestlers had?
We don't have a lot of blood. We're very family friendly. Every now and then we get some guys with some bloody noses, and we had one guy inadvertently open himself up with a chair shot. He missed a guy, hit the rope, and it came back and hit him in the head, and he had a gash in his forehead. So that's the bloodiest. But we keep it pretty family friendly. I have fans that are 3-4 years old, all the way to our oldest fan. She's 93, and she tries to come. She's been to about half of our events.
Wow.
And I always have to put her in the same spot because she tells me if I don't sit here, I can't see anything. So, Nick, you have to put me in my chair. And I always tell her, Bonnie, yes, I will. Let's go. And so
It's like one of those permanently review seats or reserve seats.
Yep. She gets it every time. She can pick her chair. She's fun. She doesn't know how to use the computer. And so the only reason that she ever knows we have an event is because I believe her nurse or whoever helps take care of her tells her about it. And then she calls me on my cell phone directly to tell me that she and her friend are coming. And I have 2 spots for them.
That's really cool.
That's a dedicated fan right there.
Yes, she is.
So we've asked this to some wrestlers, but I'm going to tweak it for a promoter a little bit.
Sure.
If you had the opportunity to promote for one of the top 4 promotions, being like WWE, AEW, Impact, New Japan, you could even throw a 5th one in there for CMLL, which one would it be and why?
I'd probably go. Oh man, that's tough because there's so many wrestlers that I'd love to, work with. I think I just have to go WWE just because it's WWE. I mean, it is what it is. It's the greatest, company of all time, and there's so many talents there that I would love to be able to work with. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, the Usos, the Miz, their entire female division. Finn Balor, who's one of my favorites. Like, yeah, no brainer. I'd have to go WWE. And I'd
That's a
want it to
very
be the
good
Royal.
answer.
I'd want to be the Royal Rumble because that's my favorite pay-per-view every single year. Because then I could throw a couple surprises in there because I love surprises.
Well, speaking of female talent, if you ever want female talent, we know some females that would love to wrestle for other promotions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're always looking to grow. We've had the privilege of having some great female wrestlers. One that has wrestled many times for us, Sierra. She's phenomenal in the ring, great outside the ring as well. She has a really big match coming up with Billy Starks, who's young.
Ooh.
You know, she's 18 years old, still in high school, and is legitimate a future of wrestling. And we've had so much success with a lot of the talent that we've worked with. I wish there was more in the area. We don't have a ton, but it is growing, and I love to see that.
Well, the ones that my executive producer was talking about are out of Colorado and Arizona, but they're
Sure.
willing to travel. So
And the
Yeah,
one down
I'm
and one down in
always-
Texas.
okay.
Yeah.
Hit shoot me a message when we're done with some names or whatever, and or tell them to hit me up. I'd be more than happy to chat with some of them. Like I said, we're always looking for talent, no matter where they're from. If they fit BZW, you know, we'd love to have them. And look at Gino. Gino's coming from pretty much anywhere in the United States at any time to come up to North Dakota.
Yeah.
And a lot of these ladies have wrestled in Gino circles too, so they know Gino also. So.
Awesome.
We've all seen some pretty nasty breaks, like Dante Martin's ankle. Has any of your wrestlers suffered a major injury?
Knock on wood, no. We've had some close calls. We've had some guys get beat up. I shouldn't say that. I lied. We did have someone that broke his ankle that I just remembered, but not in the fashion that Dante Martin did. He fractured it more than a break, you know, where it snapped or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, those guys always have, you know, they're putting their bodies at risk every time they step inside the ring, and the guys and the girls that do it, there's going to be injuries, and we've been lucky enough to not have anything, you know, a lot of serious injuries, but there's been some guys beat up, that's for sure.
What was it like to work with Eugene or Nick Dinsmore, depending on?
Yeah, so the guy is full of knowledge. Like listening to him talk about how to put matches together and the mindset, you know, like the storytelling. He's so full of wisdom there, and you know he was great in the locker room with the talent, and the fans loved him. So he was awesome to have, and I'd love to listen. I'd love to be able to listen to him tell stories all day long because he's got so many of them.
Yeah, on a personal note, he meant a lot to me as a fan because I have cerebral palsy, so I'm in a wheelchair. So to see somebody when he was in WWE that was playing like a special needs character on, you know, that stage, kind of inspired me to be like, okay, maybe I can do something, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then, you know, so many people were, you know, taken back by that character, but he you can tell that he was the right guy to play a character like that would you know, not, you know, make it, you know, that would make it okay, like that we can do this on TV and, you know, not make it more comedy in a sense, you know, but like he fit that character very well. He was able to work that character perfectly.
Yes, he was.
What is your favorite charity?
Landon's Light Foundation. So that's a foundation here in Fargo. We just did a show with them where some proceeds went to them here back in February at Winter Slam. They their main thing is that they help children that are going through traumatic medical issues. It started off as Landon Solerberg was a child here in North Dakota in Fargo that passed away from cancer. And so their main mission was to help kids with cancer. And it's a very special one to me. I had cancer when I was a child. And so it was a no-brainer to work with that organization. And they're wonderful. So Landon's Light Foundation here in Fargo, it is just an amazing charity.
If you weren't a wrestling promoter, what other promotion or profession would you be doing and why?
I'd be doing pest control, and because that is my other profession. So I also I have my wrestling organization, but I also have a company, Prairie Pest Control, and so I'm an exterminator as well.
That must help in the locker room sometimes.
It's not that bad, but no, I've been doing pest control for essentially my whole life, but I've been actually doing it for about 12 years, and so we deal with all kinds of stuff, and it works perfectly being able to work that during the day, wrestling at night. They work very well. It helps that I'm that they're both my companies and that they can work really well together. So I'm doing my two favorite jobs, two things that I absolutely love, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Well, pest control, he's got a pesky fox that he can't get rid of. So, I mean,
Yeah.
Well, that is true.
Maybe I'm not that good. Maybe I'm not that good at being an exterminator if I can't get rid of that dang fox.
I don't know. He seems pretty pesky. You might have to tag team that one there for a minute just to.
Yeah, good thing I know some guys that might be able to take care of him for me.
If you could book one dream match, who would be involved, and what pay-per-view would it be?
Oh man, do they have to be current wrestlers? Can they be wrestlers that have passed away?
It can be anybody.
Anything. Oh, jeez. So, I mean, at one point, one of my dream matches did happen with Rock versus Hogan. That to me is still one of a dream match of mine. But when you're talking like pure wrestling, like a purist in terms of that, I honestly believe Owen Hart versus Kenny Omega, or Owen Hart versus Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson. Yeah, like that would be way up there. I was such a huge Owen Hart fan and such a fan of guys like Omega and Danielson and AJ Styles, like any of those guys versus Owen Hart. Holy crap. Like that, what a match.
That I would love to have seen something like that.
Yeah.
So have you ever, as a promoter, is it hard for you as a promoter to watch wrestling now without picking it apart?
Honestly, yeah, it's changed the way that you watch it. I still am able to be a fan and watch it as a fan, especially when I'm watching it with my daughter, who loves watching it so much, and she really gets into it, and so that's able to watch it from a fan standpoint. But when I'm sometimes just flipping through channels and throw it on, and there's a match on, if I don't have any like vested interest in it, I'm watching it more from a promoter standpoint and looking at how they do things and why they do it and critiquing them on certain things like that. So definitely has changed the way that I watch wrestling for sure.
Could you tell us your top 5 female wrestlers of all time?
Top 5 female wrestlers of all time. Bayley, Rhea Ripley, Trish Stratus, AJ Lee, and Lita. Yeah.
Very good list.
Yeah. Tough to beat.
Yeah, that is going to be a tough one for everybody else to meet, actually.
So there's a lot of really, really good talent out there. And I think in the coming years, we're going to see that there's, I might add some people to that list, or some people might get bumped off that list or whatever, especially with, the growing list that AEW has and the independent wrestling has right now. There's a really good group of female talent that's going to be, up in the big leagues pretty soon. I think.
Well, one of the people that I'm gonna send you the information on, or Tony will send you the information on, that I think will be up there pretty soon, is a lady named Pandemonium. She just won a 40-man
40
battle
person,
royal.
40
Or
person.
excuse me, battle royal.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I that's one thing I really love as being a promoter too, is just like being able to see all these talents that I don't know anything about, and then I get to research them, and that means I get to watch matches that I've never seen before, and I get to see promos and promo pictures and like all this stuff, and so it's really fun just to learn about talent as well.
Yeah, the last person she eliminated was what, 6'7"?
6'2".
6'2", 240 pounds, over the top rope. She went over the top rope. Now, mind you, she's 5'2", maybe a buck 20.
A little bit of a size difference.
So, I mean, it was kind of like that Shawn
Michaels at the Royal Rumble.
At Royal Rumble.
Okay.
Where her feet just dangled as her opponent went over and touched and she won.
Okay.
Because her feet didn't, yeah.
So, as a promoter, have you ever had to help, or have you ever helped one of your talent come up with a finisher?
Not necessarily a finisher, like a move itself. We've had it where, we've helped come up with finishes to matches, and we've come up with other things, but not a move in general. No.
Oh, I'm trying to think here.
Well, when you're thinking, I'll go with one. So you said your daughter watches wrestle with you.
Yes.
If she ever wanted to follow like in your footsteps as a promoter, or as a promoter for BCW, would you encourage that? Or
so, she's 6 years old, so she's young. She loves wrestling. She loves watching it, and she loves beating me up. And so I think, if anything, if she ever wanted to be a wrestler or involved in wrestling in anything, I'd say go for it. I know that there's been, people have a lot of horror stories with this profession, but I've had nothing but great ones. And some of the people that I work with, I would be more than happy that, if my daughter got to work with some of those talents when she got older, or people just like them, I'd say go for it. She wants to be a wrestler, she could. I honestly believe my 2-year-old would probably fit more in a wrestling ring because she's fearless. She'll run at you full steam and not care.
Be a little bulldozer when she gets older. Then if she does that too,
I tell her that's my linebacker. She's gonna be my linebacker. So
I might get a little flack from the host on this one, but I'm gonna have backup from the executive producer.
Yeah, you always do anyway, so ask it.
What advice would you give the host to get out of a hole for making a huge mistake?
Well, that's going to be brought up every podcast now, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it depends on what the mistake is, but if it was geared towards you, I would say that he should probably just beg for forgiveness and apologize and know that he made a mistake. But I mean, it kind of depends on what it was. So
I'll let the executive producer explain that one.
Well, actually, gentlemen, our one viewer tonight is none other than Miss Pandemonium. So, Miss Pandemonium, please meet Nick from Below Zero Wrestling. If you're interested, he would love to talk to you about talent.
Yeah, definitely reach out. For sure, reach out. You can find us at Below Zero Wrestling on Facebook, or you can find me on my page too, my personal page, Nick Stokey. Either or, reach out.
And
I guess she's on her way driving to Winnipeg.
Not that far from here. She actually, if she depends on which way she goes, she probably has to drive through Fargo to get to Winnipeg. We're about 3 hours from there. So
yes, Tony, you can tell that story if you want to. It doesn't bother me.
I'm all about getting people booked. I don't care about your little fiasco with Yvonne. But although I guess, okay, since you want me to put you on the spot, he made a critical mistake about calling her just a promoter when she's the first woman owner in the state of Washington.
Okay, that's impressive. That there's not a ton of female owners, promoters in wrestling. I mean, there's not a lot of them out there. So it's always awesome when one of them's doing that.
All right.
And to be fair, I apologize right away, but in true wrestling fashion, we turned it into a story. So
yeah. So I guess I stand corrected. She has driven through to Winnipeg, and she's actually listening, and she's going to actually be in contact with you. It says.
Sounds good.
I don't have any other questions.
Who are the four pillars of BZW? Like AEW has their four pillars of.
Am I allowed to have like 12 pillars? Because I think we have so many. I mean, I'll go with some talent that's been here since the beginning. We have guys like Brandon Nitro, DeLorean Diggs, Jack Ledger, Bobby Brennan, Jake Taylor. I mean, I'm going with more. It honestly is very hard to figure out all that. Jameson McGregor. I mean, depending on the day, I could tell you 4 completely different people. We've been fortunate to have a select group that have been here since day one, that have been here since our very first show 2 years ago. And all those people I just said we're on our very first show and have been on many since then. And I even might be forgetting 1 or 2. Mac, Sylvester J. Fox, as much as I hate it, has been there since day one. So if we're going to talk about pillars, I think we got to talk about a lot of them, because there's been so many people that have been brought us to where we are.
And I'm going to butcher this guy's name, but Sledgehammer, something. He's a big guy, wears like a black and red singlet.
Oh, Mac.
Yeah.
Mac, yep.
When I watched his videos, he like jumped off the screen at me, like.
Yeah, so he must have been being managed by Sylvester J. Fox. He was the one that wrestled Redbeard.
Yep.
That's what you're talking about. Yep. Mac.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, Mac's been around since the beginning. He was on our very first show. He's been with Sylvester J. Fox since then. He hasn't been in the business very long, a few years, and he gets better every single match. And he's got a lot of big things coming. They're wrestling for the tag titles at our next event. And Yeah, Mac's fun. Mac's awesome. And he's big. Man, he's big. He's so tall.
I was gonna say I like to compare like wrestlers to people on this one. Him, I would compare to like Big John Studd. Like he has that same like body type.
Yeah. He would probably really like that because so many people compare him to Diesel, because they wear such a close gimmick. But when you talk about John Studd, and the thing with John is, John was such an energetic, charismatic guy in the ring sometimes too when they let him be, and you see that with Mac sometimes even a little bit more as he's growing as a wrestler, as a talent.
Yeah, the part that really stuck out to me is Eric Redbeard's a big guy in and of itself. They did a crisscross move where they both hit each other with a shoulder tackle, and nobody moved.
No, Mac is no slouch. He's no slouch.
And that's the part as a fan that I went, okay, that's impressive because that's not easy.
No, it's not at all. Especially when you're running at full speed like those two are and you hit each other. It's literally like two giants just boom,
And I have to say, that was a cool sound when they hit each other because literally it sounded like a gun went off in that place. Like,
I think Max still has nightmares about that match though, for when he got that double chop.
I can see why.
Yeah,
it was definitely a very physical match.
Yes, it was.
So, Tony, do you have any questions? I think Panda had one though. She wanted to know if you knew Bob Evans.
I do. Yeah, Bob. I've spoke with Bob a few times. Bob's actually going to be coming up to Fargo in a couple weeks and going to be doing a seminar and going to be wrestling in a tag match with his tag team partner Tim Hughes. They're going to be wrestling the Crucible. So I've got to know Bob a little bit over the last few months or so. Great guy. A lot of knowledge. I mean, the guy knows so much outside the ring as well, like, the business itself. So yeah, I know Bob, and I'd like to say in a couple weeks, I'll know him very well.
Yeah, that was kind of her message too. She said she loves his knowledge and,
Yeah, he, I talked to him for like 2 hours one day and we just talked about everything. And what I was able to take away from that was amazing. I took away 4 or 5 things from that and put them towards the promotion. And since we've been doing that, things have really been progressing for us.
Well, what I liked about Bob Evans was he didn't need a flashy outfit. You know what I mean? To make his character work. It was just the tights and Bob Evans, and that's what it was. And
yeah, tough guy, brutal Bob.
Mm-hmm.
So
I got one for you. What is your opinion on the WWE draft?
I like it. I really do. I think that it allows more talent to be showcased and, have possibly, by having 2 completely different rosters on 2 different shows. And this year, I enjoyed it a lot this year. I thought they did a great job of having it at the same time as the NFL draft, just from a promotional standpoint. It's unfortunate that Cody and Roman are not on the same show anymore because I love that feud. I think it's far from over. But I really enjoy the draft. I always like it.
Okay, so a follow-up to that. The new title belt that's on Raw.
Yeah.
Inaugural champion, Cody or Seth?
I think it everyone wants to say it's going to be Cody, and a lot of people think that that's what you have to do but I actually think I think I lean a little bit more towards Seth if I had to choose between the 2 of them. Yeah.
Okay.
Go.
Since we're on the draft, what do you think about them calling up the 3 women's champions from NXT?
From a storyline purpose, I think it's great. And I think it gives them, because what it does for NXT, it allows NXT to now have a tournament. And there's not a lot of times that you can just take a title off of someone and make a tournament out of that. And I had a discussion earlier today. We do a podcast, and I take that from the guy I do my podcast with, Showtime Rocky Allen. He works with BZW with us, and he made that point that you're able to take a title off of someone for no reason other than that they're moving brands, and now we can have a tournament, and that tournament instantly creates viewers on TV. So I think it's brilliant for them to call them up. I think they're all deserving of being called up. Plus, it gives NXT two big storylines that they need.
Yeah, the only one I didn't understand was the women's tag titles because they didn't relinquish those ones. So
they haven't. I wonder if they're going to, or if they're going to do a back and forth type of thing. At the end of the day, I have a feeling that they will get rid of them. They'll relinquish those.
the only change I would make to the draft, and you brought up the NFL draft, I would like to see them have like analysis, like after like each round of the WWE draft, like they do in the NFL draft with like Mel Kiper and stuff. Because I think that would add a little more like authenticity to the WWE draft.
Yeah, I think you could really do that too if, like, let's say every draft, each show, Raw and SmackDown, got 3 to 5 NXT wrestlers, and so that you would be able to do that with the NXT talent, so that the viewers would really know who they are right away. Because not everyone watches NXT. You might watch Raw and SmackDown, but it's not for sure that you're watching NXT.
It's a valid point. Well, and I think you could still do that with the main roster. Just explain maybe why they're going to the other, to the other brand, and what they can bring to that other.
Oh yeah, easily. Especially if you wanted to give someone a push, you could really do that because you're in control of what they say and how much they push it. So if you brought someone over, like AJ Styles and the Club are back, and they haven't really been on TV for a while, but you can instantly make them back at the top by just going over their accolades and what they bring to the table, and just by doing that analysis.
Yeah. Well, do you have anything coming up that you want to promote, or?
Yeah, so we have our next 2 months are really busy. We have a show this weekend in Glendive, Montana. We're going to be debuting in Montana. We have some amazing matches. Some former WWE guys. We have John Morrison, Chris Masters, and JTG are going to be at the event. So we're really looking forward to that one. We're teaming with a great sponsor in Flashback Games. So that's in 2 days. I hit the road tomorrow to get up there and start setting up the arena and the ring and all that. So looking forward to that. And then in a couple weeks, we have our anniversary show, WrestleVersary 2. We have some huge matches planned, some fun talent from back in the day, with Bob Evans and Tim Hughes, his new tag team partner, and ODB from TNA is going to be there. So that's going to be really fun. And I have a couple surprises as well for that event. And unfortunately, I can't say them right here. You got to be at the show. So you'll have to check out social media after the event, but we got a few surprises up our sleeve there. And that's our May. It's busy. We have some more shows coming up. We're booked throughout the year. I think we got about 8 more shows this year. So we're really loving it. So I love doing this stuff.
And one last thing that I just thought of. It was really cool to me that your guys' first show that you guys did was in a sanctuary of a church. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, Sanctuary Event Center, an old church. We will always do, that's our home. We've ran probably half of our shows there. The staff is amazing. The setup is amazing. No matter how big we ever get, and hopefully one day, we're bigger than where we are now, I'll always come back to the Sanctuary. That's always going to be our home because that's where it started. That was That was day one. And without that place, I don't think we'd be where we're at today.
And for my executive producer and co-host, in case you guys hadn't seen the video, the cool thing about that sanctuary, it's got the windows and everything with like, that you would see in a church with like the multicolored windows, which I thought was a really cool effect too for like a wrestling thing. So especially if it's a nice day or whatever.
Yeah, they kept the stained glass windows. They kept the altar. Like they kept everything. It still I mean, you could have church there tomorrow if you wanted to, but instead there's wrestling. So,
Absolutely.
Well, who knows? Maybe God's a wrestling fan at heart. So,
hey, hopefully.
Well, with that, we want to thank you for being on, and you're welcome back anytime.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. I had a lot of fun. Stay up to date with us at on our Facebook page, and like I said, pay attention. We have a lot of great stuff coming up, and really, really appreciate you guys having me on. This was fun. This was really, really fun.
So real quick before we let you go, I'm going to plug one little shameless plug for Panda here because it seems like nobody's giving Panda the love except for me. Check out Spring Into Action, and you'll find the Red Rock Rumble. That's the
In fact, I can send you the link for that if you're interested.
Please
I have that.
She had a tag team match earlier in the day, and then she actually came back from that match and won the Red Rock Rumble. So she wrestled twice that day.
It's a busy night.
Busy night for her. But so if Nathan will plug that for you, you can see a little bit of Panda's work.
Yes,
Awesome.
I'll send that to you also.
Perfect.
So with that being said, I'm going to be nice to the host today because there's a pesky little fox in Below Zero Wrestling. Dude, you need to get yourself a flea dip and go find yourself a veterinarian because you need to get spaded and neutered. Until then, peace out. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.